Spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Now when the days for Jesus being taken up were fulfilled, he resolutely determined to journey to Jerusalem, and he sent messengers ahead of him. And on the way, he wanted to enter a Samaritan village to prepare for the reception there. But they would not welcome him because his destination was Jerusalem. Now when the disciples James and John saw this, they asked, "Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to consume them?" Jesus simply turned and rebuked them, and they journeyed by the way of another village. As they were proceeding on their journey, someone asked Jesus, I will be your follower wherever you go." Jesus answered him, "The foxes have dens and the birds of the sky have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest his head." And to another he said, "You, follow me." But he said to Jesus in reply, "Well, Lord, let me first go and bury my father." But Jesus answered him, "Let the dead bury the dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God." To another said to him, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me say farewell to my family at home." To this one, Jesus said, "No one who sets his hand to the plow and looks to what was left behind is fit for the kingdom of God." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
And we have the gall to call it good news. No one who sets his hand to the plow and looks backward is fit for the kingdom of God. Now with that in mind, here's our work. We are to keep our eye on the prize, our shoulder to the wheel, our nose to the grindstone, our ear to the ground, and try and work in that position. It ain't easy. It's about it can't be done. It's a hard thing to do, almost as hard as what Jesus is asking of us today. Beyond the pale. Relatives and friends, even ourselves, he's making these incredible demands. It seems like he'll take nothing else to second place to himself and his mission. He is mission-driven. He's going to Jerusalem because in Jerusalem, everything is going to change. In Jerusalem, the great mystery of who God truly is going to be unveiled. And we will be called to be who we truly are. But in order to get there, you've got to follow him. And you've got to follow him not 50%, not 70%, 100%. This is the cost of discipleship, and it ain't cheap. There's no such thing as cheap grace. Of course, being good Midwesterners, and especially good Chicagoans, we've got to ask the question, the great Chicago question. Mike Royko once said that the motto of Chicago should be ubi est mea. That's Latin. It means, where's mine? What about me? I mean, if you want me to give up everything, Lord, what are you going to give me in return? Of course, when Peter asks that question after he decides that he is the Messiah, he says, "I'm going to give you 100 times more of everything else, and persecution beside." But, "Oh, no, don't worry about it, Peter. I'm going to give you whatever you need." We're going to get even more than that. As a matter of fact, St. Paul answers the question for us. See, when all is said and done, we're not being good just to get to heaven. We are being and following Jesus without reservation because there's something even more than just getting to heaven. Heaven's not a reward for good behavior. No. What he's calling us to is the fullness of life. And that fullness of life, if you've heard me say Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, because it is one of my themes, that fullness of life begins right now. For those who have eyes to see and the awareness of Jesus and the ability to do what he has done, not so much even the ability, the humility to receive what he wants to give. He wants to give us nothing less than the fullness of life. But in order to get that fullness, we've got to go all in. We can't go halfway. You know, the old saw says if they accused you of being a Christian, a follower of Jesus, a disciple of Christ, would there be enough evidence to convict you? And that means more than just making a nod to our religion, to the institution, to whatever it is. It means to throw ourselves in with the Lord because we want that life. It doesn't matter if we desire that life. It doesn't matter if we're never, ever going to be satisfied without that life. No, there's a war going on. There's something that fights against it. What fights against it is what St. Paul called today in the second reading, the flesh. He says, "Look, Christ has freed, for freedom's sake, Christ has freed you." Lots of life. But there's something pulling you back. And it's the flesh. He's not talking about sexual stuff. Probably the flesh would probably be best translated the ego, the small self. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? What your reputation is, what your education is, what your bank account has, the way you define yourself in the outer world. These are all things that are going to die when we die. And he says, and in the spirit, the truth of who you are called to be is going to have a real hard time with this thing. Because it's always going to be there. But we see it pop up today in the gospel as they're traveling along. We've got the Samaritans who don't like the Jews, and they hate Jerusalem. And the Jews never ever go through a Samaritan town or village. They always go around it. Jesus wants to enter into their lives. So he sends a little delegation ahead of him to check out to make sure that there's a place for them to stay. Well, they go, and the Samaritan says, "Get out of here. We don't want you in our town. We have nothing to do with it. We are independent people." Of course, this kind of bruises the egos of Jimmy and Johnny, of Jesus' two disciples. So James and John's come back and they go, it's not for accident they call them the sons of thunder. Lots of noise, but no action. And they go, "Do you want us to rain down fire from heaven to consume them?" And Jesus' response is, "Oh, go away. Just go away." That's not what it's about. It's not about your bruised ego. It's not about your nationalism. It's not even about your religion. You know, right now, we are going through a real crisis in the world. Nobody thought that Brexit would happen. Nobody. And we always thought it was going to be union. But what's the wound? The wound is we can't do what we want to do. We are independent. And that's been taken away from us. That's always going to be there. That's part and parcel of our brokenness. That's part and parcel of what's called original sin. It's part and parcel of who we are. And it'll be there till our dying breath. But it can't control us. There's got to be something bigger. It's got to be something that we bow to, something that transcends it, something that has the answer. And what that is what Jesus calls the kingdom. And of course, the kingdom is going to be established on the cross with his death and his resurrection. And we are going to enter into that kingdom. And the kingdom is nothing less than seeing the world through the eyes of Christ and then being Christ in the world and continuing that redemption. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, but it ain't cheap. And so as he's walking along, somebody comes up to him and he says, "I will be your follower. I'll go wherever you want me to go." And Jesus has this enigmatic response. He says, "You know, the foxes have their dens and the birds of the air have their nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest his head. He is homeless." Nobody should be homeless. Nobody should be homeless. You know, I was thinking about this as I was preparing this homily today. I had lived in the same house that my parents built in a weak little ranch in 1950 for $13,000. I think we got our money's worth. Yeah. And it's my crib. It's my place. When I go there, I know every nook. After 65 years, every nook and cranny. I used to kid that I still sleep in the same bed that I did in second grade. No mattress, but the same bed. There's something wonderful about having a place. This is our place. This is our house. This is our nest. This is our stopping. We love it here. We're comfortable here. And Jesus says, no. There's something more important than your comfort. As a matter of fact, I am homeless because my home is everywhere. I have no place to rest my head because my head is in your heart. Wherever you are, I am to be with you. I am in you. I am one with you. And as he's going along, he sees someone who would make a wonderful disciple. He says, you, follow me. And he says, no, I will. I will. But Lord, first let me bury my father. I think that's a reasonable request. And Jesus comes back with this, boom, let the dead bury the dead. Well, that's above and beyond the pale. But you need to understand the context of in which it was said. His father probably wasn't dead. His father was probably still very much alive. But what he was saying is that as soon as my father dies, then I'm going to be free. And I'll be able then to follow you. And Jesus is saying, I don't have time for that. That really is true. I came to realize after my mother died, my preaching changed. All of a sudden, all of the domestic things that I was always worried about, like shaming my mother by my preaching. Oh, Tony, don't say that from the pulpit. What will they think? All of a sudden, I found myself able to say things I never said before. I didn't have to be so domestic. I could be a whole lot more prophetic. I could say what the gospel really said. I didn't have to worry about what Mom was going to think. So what Jesus is trying to say right here is this is too important. It's too big of a deal. And finally, another one says, I will follow you, but let me say goodbye to my family and my friends. Well, that seems fair. I mean, that's what Elisha asks of Elijah today. And Elijah says, yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out, and then come follow me. Jesus says, no. No, this is too important. This is too important. The kingdom is too important. Once you put your shoulder to the plow and you look back, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. Keep your eye on the prize. What's the prize? The fullness of life. Being a disciple of Christ is like nothing else in the world. Nothing more powerful or wonderful. It's the one absolute that relativizes everything else. Every other relationship, even the relationship with myself, with my parents, with my family, with my friends, with my property, with my reputation, it's all relativized. Because the absolute is absolute love and absolute life. It is the pearl of great price. It is the only thing worth living for.